we are live. Hello everyone. My name is Dr. Sneha Roo. I am a palliative physician and founder of Ori Kalankini, an organization that's changing narratives around menstruation and sexuality in India through art, theatre, and dialogue. This series is called Leaning into the Network series, where we bring people from different parts of our network to meet each other. And today we have Ms. Sharman Kabir with us. Sharman is founder of an organization called Ritu in Bangladesh. She is also a YCF alumni of 2018 batch. YCF is Young Connectors of the Future. It's a program by Swedish Institute. So, hi Sharman.
Hi Sneha.
Sharman is a good friend also, and being from the menstrual sector, we have collaborated and spoken to each other a lot and organized events with each other. So thank you for accepting your invitation again.
Thank you, Sneha.
Right. So without wasting any more time, I would like to ask you about Ritu. What made you start it? And yeah, what made you start it? Let's just start from there.
Okay, so I started Ritu in 2016. So I always wanted to do something for myself that would ultimately help to sleep me with a dream, or like to do something for my society. That was the dream always was chasing me. But in 2016, I found that puberty, menstrual hygiene, and specifically the reproductive health for women in Bangladesh and all over the world is very poor. So I recalled my own puberty and period experiences. Like when I had my first period, I didn't know anything about this, and I didn't have any help from anyone. Even I was so introvert and shy that I couldn't share this information with anyone. So that was one of the very bitter experiences in my life. And in 2016, like particularly, I started at that time because I got some news from around the world on social medias and also like newspapers that many of the women and girls are being deprived of their basic needs, that are menstrual hygiene product, and also some of them are dying in an like uncertainly because they don't have any access to proper menstrual hygiene product. So that was all the things that triggered me to set my plan, set my dream to start Ritu. And that was the main motivation, like getting my own personal experiences to serve the whole society. So this was the main like motive that I started Ritu in 2016.
Thank you, Sharman. The name itself, Ritu, is very interesting, and I know the story behind it, but I would want others to know if you could share the multiple layers of the meaning of the name Ritu.
Yes, of course. So I will be describing this in two parts. One is the meaning of this particular word, and another one is the story behind the peculiar spelling, like WREETU. So let me start with the first meaning, the word of Ritu. So Ritu is a Bangla name in many of the rural parts. Women address our menstruation as Ritu in Bangla, because Riti is also the Bangla meaning of season. That means that we have 6 seasons in Bangladesh, like rainy seasons, summer seasons, and like that. And um, uh, as like every season comes in only once in a particular year, and also we the women get our menstruation in a particular time in a month. So some of the like rural women connected with the with like that, like thinking of that part, like Ritu season comes in a particular time in a period. And it's also a common name of girl's name in Bangladesh, like Ritu. So these are the three things behind selecting this Ritu particular name as my organizations. And let me share a bit about this spelling. So usually people spell it like RITU, Ritu, but in Bangla word we don't have any particular letter for W in Bangla. So I brought it here with WREETU. Like in a restaurant in 2016, I was having a brainstorm with my boyfriend, who is now my husband. So we were like writing many names together, many spellings, and we came across with the name of Ritu. And then suddenly it picked in my mind that if we write this name in a different or like a bit different way, people would remember it more. WREETU, because it is not usually spelled like that. And it happened that many of the times people asked me why this spelling, like what's the significance of particular spelling. So yes, Neha, so thank you very much for asking this question. It's always a like very good experience, like very good story to share with people, like choosing this name, like behind the reason behind this choosing this name.
I love how you blush every time, like literally every time you speak about your boyfriend who is a husband now.
No, because he has a very good connection with this organization. He has been contributing equally with me, like to shape this organization from idea to now in a implementation stage. So I really love to acknowledge his contribution, and also want to inspire the other men in the world to support their girls, to support their either it's a girlfriend or wife or whatever it is, to support the other women. So it's always inspiring.
Thank you so much. Can you tell us about the activities that Ritu is involved in pre-COVID? Like, what did you do before the pandemic hit?
Okay, so our regular activities are covered in like workshops. We conduct very interactive workshops following design thinking model process in slum schools or mainstream schools, and also in community. So our purpose is to break the period taboo and also to educate the whole community about these things. So and for that reason, we bring not only the adolescents girls, but also bring their like schools, peers, parents, teachers, and even the whole community people while we conduct these workshops or sessions. So in our sessions, we engage the communities, we engage the audiences in a very good process so that they can articulate their feelings or experiences of having or not having a period, or their responsibilities and roles towards women or girls or the menstruation overall. And the second one is we have developed a Ritu comic book that is in Bangla and in a very friendly language. So while we were conducting workshops in 2016, we found that there are very scarcities or shortages of like content or materials that our girls can read more and can learn more. So I started researching and found that there is a very good potential of a comic book, because in my early childhood, I used to watch Mina cartoon. I don't know if you know about it. Yes. So Mina cartoon. So I used that learning experiences, that whenever we see something, we learn better than like hearing, though it depends on the like person to person. And my education is also from teaching learning, like TESOL, teaching English, TESOL, teaching learning, teaching methods, and all of these things. And I also worked as a curriculum developer in a NGO. So like mingling all these experiences, my professional, academic, and personal experiences, I have developed this book. Let me show this.
Yeah.
So this is a Ritu comic book. We have developed this. It took almost 2 years, Neha, to develop this book, and we got many feedback from school girls while we were developing this book. So we were following the human-centered design method, and we engaged the whole school's girls and went back again and again to them with their questions with their contents, images, whether they like or not. And also we engaged gynecologists to vet the medical information here. So along with the workshops, we have developed this book with the comic book, and this is a very good package right now. Wherever we now conduct workshops, we give this book either free by donation, or we also sell this book with a very minimum price. So workshop and book are our main concerns now. Also right now means before pandemic, we have focused on teenagers issues. Like we have many problems with adolescents and teenagers, not problems, we the adults feels that it is a problem, but I personally feel that it is not a problem, it is a gap between themselves and between us. So I want to like minimize that gap between the teenagers and adolescents, parents and teachers, so that ultimately we can bring a better, we can create a better human generations.
Thank you. So what has been because one of the main, I think the biggest myth, even in the developmental sector, is that only women menstruate. So, there is a lot of misgendering happening. So I will use the term menstruators because it will include even the trans men who menstruate. And it also includes, it doesn't say that all women have to menstruate because trans women don't. And many cis women also who have gynecological issue, they don't. But when we say women all the time, it is making very exclusionary. So I will ask you, what have been the challenges for menstruators in Bangladesh overall, and what are you doing to help them overcome them?
um, for us, like the women who have their menstruation, the main problem, the main challenges is that we don't own this very, very basic biological process of growing up, very natural process of giving birth to a child and sustaining and helping, like contributing the whole civilization with the new baby. So we the women who menstruate, we don't own these very proud things. So this is one of the main challenges from where all the problems arises. So because we don't own these things, the men or the men counterparts, they don't also acknowledge this as a very basic essential needs for us. And for this reason, in many of the families, we don't have that like budget for buying sanitary napkin or menstrual hygiene products that we need. Also, it is very shameful in some of the parts, even in Bangladesh, to talk about menstruation. Even I have many problems. I can't say to anyone, or I can't share. Even I go to doctor, I feel very shy. So these are the main challenges. That one is the point that we don't own these things as our biological process. Second one is we don't talk about these things. I just want to share here one thing inside Sneha here a few days ago. So we are now working with Ritu app, mobile app, where we can serve more women and girls with our information. So I was interviewing two gynecologists, and there was a question I asked them, that is it necessary to ask about questions about period history while you like prescribe any medicine, whatever it is, any problem, like either it is relevant to menstruation or not. Then out of surprise, I learned that yes, they do, and it is a medical protocol. As you are a doctor, you know better. It is a medical protocol that whenever a girl, either she is adolescent or she is like 50 years old, 55 years old, you must ask the period history questions so that you can prescribe the best medicine to her. So this is one of the insights that we think, all of us think that menstruation is only for women, but it is not actually. And menstruation is not only a part or cycle of a month. It is relevant to the overall whole being, like whole health issues to a girl and woman. So we don't recognize, or we don't recognize this issue, that menstruation is not a part of only or 3 or 4 or 5 days in a month. It is rather relevant to a girl's whole life. It is also relevant to make this human civilization survived, and it is also our woman dignity. So we don't recognize these issues, and this is the main challenges. Unless we can recognize, we can't like feel the girls and women that period is a pride, menstruation is a pride, and we can't also convey the messages to men also that you should be respectful to women's changes in these issues, and you should be cooperative, either it is your sister or mother or wife or whoever she is or colleague even. you should you should be respectful to her. So we are working to break this all these challenges, all these taboos in Bangladesh, so that we the women can enjoy our period with a dignity. Because I have a daughter of 10 months old, so whenever like sometimes whenever I see her or I see her growing up, I feel very like emotional that how she is growing up, and menstruation is a part of that growing up. So we can't isolate menstruation only for only a girl's issues. It's a overall part of growing up a girl to a woman, right?
Right. Thank you so much. And like you rightly pointed out, many of us are not in touch with our cycle, many menstruators. And even, even in my practice, because right now I'm a palliative physician, so I don't have to, know about menstrual cycles. Most of them are in treatment of cancer where the cycle is, jeopardized anyway. But even when I would do the general practice and we would ask, when is your last menstrual period? Because it's a general practice. Everyone ideally should ask, though it's not asked. So many menstruators didn't know at all their periods. So they would think that what is the relationship of me putting on weight? If I'm not going to a gynecologist, then I don't need to remember my period. And you beautifully drew the connection that it could be depression, it could be thyroid problems. Menstruation is very deeply rooted to your general health, and we as menstruators have have a I wouldn't say obligation, but it's our duty. It's our I don't know. It's part of getting connected to our body when we chart our cycles, when we know what's happening with our body, and that education is lacking. Thank you for bringing it up. Let's go to the
And
next.
also, Sneha, I just want another point here. I don't know how many people are saying or will watch this video. So menstruation is not that type of thing that only medical trained people or only the doctors or gynecologists can talk about it or can share information about it. So I think it's a very basic part. Like, yes, doctors have others contribution there, but to make raise awareness about this issue, I don't need to be medical people. So it happens sometimes that whenever I talk about this with people, that okay, I am raising awareness about menstruation in Bangladesh, or I want some support or access to your school or something like that. Some of them just first ask questions, are you a doctor? And if they like hear that no, I am not, then their reactions change. So this is one of the important mindset of people that must change, that to raise awareness about menstruation or to talk about menstrual hygiene things, you don't need to be a doctor. Anyone can who have knowledges, or that like who have some research knowledges, or who has prepared herself or himself to do that, they can do that. So I through your this session, my request to all of the viewers that don't discourage people who want to serve the people, because they are ready before coming to this stage. Yes.
Right. You rightly pointed out, because I see it as, earlier there was this whole passing on of knowledge between one woman to another woman, one menstruator to another menstruator, in various forms. And right now there is one kind of silence. Also, we have lost earlier ways of passing on information. Like earlier, there were red tents, where people would gather when they're menstruating. When it was celebrated in certain parts of India. First menstrual period is celebrated. So that would be a way to pass on information from one menstruator to another menstruator. So when we say that only certain people are capable of passing on information, you're medicalizing a very natural process. Medical professionals and one who's a menstrual educator should know how much to go and how much not further, when to refer, to not take on medical roles and not give medical advice with respect to things they don't know. But when you question and when you stop people from talking about menstruation, if they're not medical practitioner, I think we are missing out on a whole bunch of people who have lived experience and have trained experience. So you are a menstruator yourself and you have taken certain training in educating yourself about the scientific process, about certain methods and certain products. So I think with efficient training, and if you're a menstruator yourself, you're in a good position to be an educator if you know to draw the line.
Yes.
And this I would, yeah, I would also.
Okay, you continue.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so I also agree, Sneha, because that we being a girl, we know all the like the basic ins and outs of having menstruation and relevant things. In Bangladesh, there are some boys who are also promoting this education, and we can't like marginalize them as well because they have all the passion and they have that you have said that if you have the training, effective training, that whoever has the effective training, they can be talking about these things. And another one is that like celebration. You were talking that in India, in some of the parts of India, people celebrate first menstruation. In Bangladesh, it is not widely celebrated, but in some of the families, very few families, this is celebrated. But by our activities in Ritu, we also promote these things, and it is one of my personal dream, very personal, my personal dream that people would celebrate their first, like their girls' first menstruation. And in schools, in the schools wherever we work, we also promote these things. And the good news is that some of the schools have already started celebrating the first menstruation of their students, female students. And another one thing you were sharing about medical advice. So we have onboard gynecologists. So we don't, though I know many of the things relevant menstruation and overall things, but I can't advise. I don't have that authority, right? So we have also onboard gynecologists, and I will add more to this point whenever you will come to the point like our current activities with pandemic, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw the listing of the gynecologist.
Okay, go ahead.
Good, you brought this point out about men being involved in menstrual education training. As an organization, we have a stance that lived experience is more valuable than research. So, I mean, it's amazing that you have a stance like this, but as an organization, we have a stance that men and boys are very welcome to become menstrual educators when they're interacting with men and boys. So that's a stance we have taken because we have seen that two things. One, when men and boys interact with a mixed group or with a girls group, the menstruators are little more closed off, and men and boys in training are super effective when it is a group of men and boys. So they feel that, oh, I can relate to this person better, and if he being a boy can talk about this, why can't I talk about this? So those are the two reasons. And third reason is that many times, like many times, we have seen that it's like somebody who, it's like in the US how they are creating abortion laws without having a woman on board at all. About woman's body, some male member is taking the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have seen that many times it can happen that the male starts thinking of themselves to be expert in a subject, though they have not experienced it at all. So I think there should be humility when people get on and call themselves as menstrual educators. So yeah, that's my and our organizations to take. Yeah. That's it. We have one question though. Oh, it's not a question, it is a comment. Somebody said, Nilima said, 2 years ago, people would not take me seriously when I would offer the workshop on these matters. So Nilima is echoing exactly your point, what you said, that, just because one is not a healthcare professional, then
Mm.
whatever value they give to the work is taken away. So continuing the point, can you speak about how you have onboarded gynecologists and what are your strategies during the pandemic? How have you adapted your work?
Uh, a gynecologist, like in the beginning or in this pandemic situation?
Both, maybe.
Both. Okay. So this is a very again, this is another interesting point. So from the very beginning of my menstrual cycle, I had very irregular period. So many of the times I used to visit a gynecologist, either with my sisters, most of the time with sisters. So I found that they like prescribed almost all the same things every time, like not like so much like a medicine, rather like food habits or exercises, something like that. After like starting Ritu, so I felt that we need medical professionals on our board so that we have that backup to those who question ourselves. And again, I visited one gynecologist in Dhaka. So I found her very friendly, and she was one of the top students in her batch. She's very friendly. She was very friendly. And then I shared about my venture that, okay, I'm working with this organization, and my vision is to educate the girls and women in Bangladesh and to build a better period friendly world for all of us, our girls. So my request, if you can give us some time or give us some advice on these things. And also we were developing, we were like yet to start the developing of the book. So I wanted her to be our onboard gynecologist. Like Miss, it is an ownership that she is our onboard gynecologist, right? And she was very interested, and she at that moment she connected with her other two colleagues gynecologists who were also interested. So this was the starting, like how we started getting on board gynecologists. And we started with 3 gynecologists, and now we have around 7 gynecologists. So as you know, being a doctor, you people have very tight schedule. So it's a bit challenging to get their time, but yes, we are managing it. And coming to the next point, like our pandemic responses. So right now, we are distributing sanitary pads, sanitary napkins to our schools, specifically in the slum schools where we worked before. And you might remember, Sneha, I shared about the Ritu Shati thing, the like campus ambassadors, period champions in every school. So we have period champions for the viewers and those who don't know. I'm just adding a line. So Ritu Shati are selected students, both female and male, from each school, who we trained up with tools, techniques, and strategies specifically so that they can serve their communities and other students in their own campus. So we from Ritu, it's not possible for us to be present there every day in school period. So we train them up. The community people, community students, and school girls come to the Ritu Shati whenever they have any period related problem. If they can't like solve, or if they can't share any particular things, they connect with me, and then if needed I connect with my gynecologist. So this is the trio things that works, like my Ritu Shati connect with me and I connect them with our gynecologist. So this is a very interesting model, and it has been already a proven model in Ritu organization. So in pandemic, we felt that we have some responsibilities to our Ritushatis and to the other girls who study in the schools. And because of the pandemic, we are locked down in Bangladesh. I'm personally locked down from March 13th, and officially it started around in the last week in the March. like officially locked down. So the low income family members, they are in the lockdown situation, they can't earn money for their livelihood, and in that situation buying a sanitary napkin is nothing but a luxury or just an unessential things for them. So we felt that necessity, and we raised a donation with Just Peoples. It is an organization from New Zealand based. So they supported us with the financial donation things, and we distributed sanitary napkins in some of the slums in Dhaka. Also, we are now talking about with some other organization who are working with directly with slum schools, slum students, so that we can serve those beneficiaries as well. So that is a like basic questions that as schools are closed, how we are distributing those things. Here, I'm very proud to share that my Ritu Sathis, like in every community, in slum schools, people are living in the same community who are going to the same school. You have an idea, right? So we selected, after talking with the school's principals or teachers, we contacted with those Ritu Sathis in that particular community, and you just will be amazed to know how perfectly they have managed these things. And even the girls and the boys as well, they went to door with all the protective things, all the protective materials because of the COVID-19, and distributed sanitary napkins by going door to door. It is a very good changes in our country, and specifically in that community, that a boy is going to distribute a sanitary napkin to a girl. So and people are welcoming it, either it is mother, parents, and the girls themselves, they are just welcoming these distribution channels or distribution things. So this is one of the main proud moments. I'm feeling very proud to share with you and all the people who are listening to us. So our Ritu Sathis are taking their social responsibilities. That is one of our core values with our Ritu Sathi model. So that they will be perfect with their leadership skills, they will be serving their communities, they will be more empathetic to the other stakeholders in the communities that are now going on. And also apart from distributing the sanitary napkin, we can't go to the, like the girls can't go to the doctors or visit gynecologists right now, but we have like periods in our pandemics, right? Pandemic doesn't stop our period. So thinking that point, as I have said, we have gynecologists, we are taking now online request for medical advice with Ritu's gynecologists, and we have shared an Google form where the girls can register themselves there, and we are connecting with the gynecologists, and they are taking their services or consultation over phone or video call, whatever that suit them. So these are the two immediate responses. Like we are distributing the sanitary napkins, and another thing is we are connecting the gynecologists with all the people. Like previously, it was only limited to our own schools wherever we worked, but right now it is open for all people, all girls and women, whoever just want, they can talk with our gynecologist after going through a certain process.
That is super commendable, and like lot of good wishes from our side that you're doing such a brilliant work, especially during pandemic. Same periods don't stop for pandemic, and we have started a movement called it's a campaign actually. It's called Pads That Last, where we at
Yes.
Odi Kalankini you've seen that, right? So
Yes.
we have raised about 2 lakhs just by people's money
Oh my God.
to donate washable cloth pad in the community, because we are saying that it makes more sense to distribute washable cloth pad, because next month who's going to distribute,
Okay.
or next month who is going to pay for that pad, because this economic situation will last for a long time. So we
Hmm.
have seen a lot of people convert to washable cloth pads. Even a lot of NGOs start considering to use washable cloth pads and distribute washable cloth pads, who earlier were not used, because they were thinking that first let me think of my convenience, not about the environment. Now it has become economic reason. So they
True.
have, it's better, it's easy on the pocket if we
Yeah.
use washable cloth pads. So that has
Uh,
an advantage we have seen. And
Let
it's
me
also
congratulate you,
commendable.
Sneha.
Huh?
Let me congratulate you. I saw this information on Facebook page that you are running this campaign and achieve this milestone. So congratulations on your team.
Thank you. And I would like to congratulate your team and especially the male members who are distributing the products because one of the NGOs, one of the relief work groups in India whom I spoke to, I was talking to them that, okay, you're delivering ration. Are you delivering sanitary napkins? And he said, like he was hesitant, a male-led organization. So he was hesitant. He was like, Madam, we have thought about this, but all our volunteers are male and they are hesitating to give. And my heart just broke. I was like, oh my God, because the volunteers are male and they are hesitating to give. We are not even talking about leading workshops. So leading workshop is, requires a training, requires humility, lived experience is more valuable. But mechanically going and distributing pads can be done. And that I won't generalize all the Indian organizations, but that particular organization was compromising on menstruators' health because of their personal inability to go and deliver the product. So I will congratulate that your organization is doing that, and I would request people on ground, both in Bangladesh and in India, to it's time to get over yourself, go beyond your fears, go beyond your shame, go beyond your guilt, to become more than what you think you are so that you can serve others. It's not a gyan, but I was heartbroken when they said, no, we're not considering it because our volunteers are shy. So menstruators can deal with what problem they have. We won't give that. So it was
Yeah,
very
yeah, it's a challenge also for us. Like, we select trainers for conducting workshops. Still, we can't send male students or male trainers in the classrooms to talk about these things. So yes, we share the same like similar socio-economic statuses, and also they have similar taboos in this particular field as well.
right. No, I mean, that's what I'm saying, that there's a difference. Menstrual trainer is different. So you need training and you need to accept that a menstruator knows more about menstruation than me because I've taken the 3 day training. So that is a different mindset. But this requires just delivering the product, no? You're giving ration kit. You can just put one more pad in
Yes.
the kit and go give. But you're hesitant about that. So that I'm really upset about.
Yeah.
Very, very. Yeah.
Yes, the mindset it is.
Yeah. So just to let you know, we have a lot of men also watching the Facebook Live,
Oh, that's great.
and they are congratulating you. And someone says, "I'm with you." There's Kishore from YCF, and there is
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So let me ask you. We also have few questions which we will take at the end. So other people who are
Mhm.
on live on Facebook, please put in your questions. Mm, the question from my side would be, where do you see Ritu going in the next 5 years? What are your future plans? Where do you want to expand it?
Okay, pandemic has brought some changes in our future plans. So, um, like thinking, like combining all these things, let me share this point right this way. So, in next 5 years, um, as an organization, Ritu, we want to serve 64 districts in Bangladesh. That are we have 64 districts in Bangladesh. So in next 5 years, we want to go in each of the districts with our workshops, books, resources that we will have at that time, and also like educate like 3 million girls and women directly and indirectly. So this is a very like ambitious goals, but I don't think it's impossible because we have 12 months in a year. That means 5 months means many times. And in our organizational structure, we will be more big to serve this to achieve this milestone. And also we are developing the Ritu app that I have shared earlier. So with our Ritu app, we want to change the overall whole, yeah, like health structure, like health service providing things. Like with the technology, we will be going to a good height. to reach more and more girls and women and serve more people through our app. So in next 5 years, I believe our Ritu app will be one of the top health care providing services in Bangladesh. And also, I believe I will be able to work with some other similar socioeconomic countries like India. So we have been working already with you, Sneha, with you in India, and we have some other connections in other parts as well. So I want to leverage those connections and go beyond our like physical border, like
Yes.
national border, and work with them as well.
Thank you. That sounds super inspiring, and you know, I for one am always open for collaboration. And we have a yearly project. I'll take this chance to talk about this. We have a yearly fellowship where we
Mm.
invite applications from about 20 to implement and design solutions around gender, sexuality, and menstruation. So they are the ones designing solutions for their community, and we guide them through 13 weeks. And Sharman has been a guest faculty for that fellowship, and even this time you will be. Two of us, our fellows, this time in the project have taken up comic books and video material. One is to do with for boys and men, and one comic book. It's an intersectional comic book which somebody else wants to develop. So it will be very interesting for them also to collaborate with you and see what connections you can make and how do you make it better.
Yeah,
Uh,
so as Sneha, let me share some more information then. So, so I have not made it public yet, but we are also developing like comic book for boys as well. We are working on this right now, and also we are opening our international blog on period menstruation and women's health. We have already started this, and hopefully we will launch it soon. And apart from that, we are also working with menstrual hygiene product. So in next 5 years, this will be a new brand and maybe the first choice of women and girl for menstrual hygiene product in Bangladesh.
oh, that's like super competitive. The first choice of menstruation in Bangladesh, and it's good. That's what
Yes.
inspires me about you. You know, you're like always that. Um, thank you for sharing your goals and announcing many things for the first time in public using our portal. And we're very honored that you announced for the first time using our portal.
Thank you.
What are your plans for Menstrual Hygiene Day, which is coming on May 20th? Because I know you already
Yes.
have plans.
Okay. So, for the pandemic situation, we can't organize any offline or physical program. So we have chosen online activities. So you might know about menstrual hygiene management, like menstrualhygiene.org. That is the international website or authority. So we are right now making a video for them, like with the bracelet on hand and showing it. I know you will take participate there as well with the video. So we will make. We are also we are going both national and international media outreach. So from New Zealand, we are in a communication. So we want to celebrate this menstrual hygiene day with a media in New Zealand, and our stories will be published there. So I'm in a communication with them right now. And also in Bangladesh, we will be promoting our activities there. So what are the activities we are doing targeting this day? We are making one video for the international audiences that I have shared. Another one thing, we will be creating another video with the local people, our students, our teacher that we have worked with a like still photo, something like that, and we will make a positive message holder video so that people can watch it and they also share their own messages about period and puberty. Apart from that, I am organizing panel discussions, like Zoom panel discussion with representative from almost all of the South Asian countries. So because of the YCF, and grateful to YCF again, because of the YCF, we have got many connection with South Asian regions. So I am now leveraging that connections. And as I have said that, as I'm also interested to invite you there, so probably you will be there as well from India, like as a representative from India. So my idea is to like picturize the ugliest pictures of menstruation, having a period or having menstruation. So we think that being a doctor, being an engineer, or being in the top position of female, we are empowered. But is it really? We are not actually. Like a few days ago, I was talking about someone from Nepal, and still they had to have to live, have to sleep in the hut in their menstruation, in their period. So in Bangladesh, we have some stories, and I believe in in other parts of the South Asian regions, we have our own stories. So I want to bring those stories in a discussion, and that will be shared on Period Hygiene Day. And also, I am organizing another panel discussion with some of the leading top women activists and also men activists in MHM, from INGOs, NGOs, and entrepreneurs. So that will be also like recorded earlier and will be published on Menstrual Hygiene Day. Another thing, we are doing a campaign to raise donation or fund to distribute sanitary napkins, because I have said that we have already started, but it's not enough, or we can't stop here. So we need to go to a long way. So that and that's why we need all of the people's help and support. That is why we are now designing a campaign. We will be launching it soon, like tomorrow or day after tomorrow, like a campaign to donate pad to girls or slum people. That almost similar to yours one. And apart from
Right.
that, we have some content related plans that our in different designed way. Will be sharing our contents and messages, so that people can know about these things and break their period taboo. So because of the limitations of these times, yes, these are the overall plans. But I hope all the people and other viewers, you can also like follow us on our Ritu, like www.facebook.com/RituBook, WREETU, Ritu, different spelling. So Ritu Book, you can follow us there, and also can know more about our activities.
Thank you so much. We have a few questions. Are you okay with taking a few questions? We have
Yes, of
on the chat
course.
box. So Nilima has asked that can you differentiate between the challenges that menstruators face in different socioeconomic background? Like, low socioeconomic background, what are the challenges that menstruators are facing? And in upper class society, high socioeconomic background, what are the challenges that menstruators are facing in Bangladesh context?
Okay. So thank you, Nilima, for asking this question. So let me clear these things first. So I don't marginalize about the challenges or problems that our girls and women face in Bangladesh, either it is in lower income or higher income background people, because menstruation is still a thing to be shy about, and it's still a taboo. But to dig into this matter, yes, definitely there are some um, there are some linear lines where we can differentiate a bit. For the lower income or less privileged girls and women, they don't see menstruation as an essential thing, and they don't buy any sanitary napkins or any menstrual hygiene products, because they have other priority in their basic needs list. So they don't afford menstrual hygiene product. This is one of the thing. And for the higher group people, they buy the sanitary napkins or menstrual hygiene products because they can afford. But there is one similarity, is that none of the groups don't know why this is essential for us, or how to use menstrual hygiene product properly. So to point out another things, I also conduct workshops in some of the private universities in Dhaka. So in one of the you can imagine that the students from private universities, 500 or 200 or 100 taka is nothing to them, because they buy like makeup with 5,000 taka maybe. And there I found that the university girl students, they only use sanitary napkins in the first day, and from second day to last, they use the facial tissues that they find in their university's toilet because these are free. And what was the reason? The reason was nothing. They don't know that might have a very harmful effect on their whole reproductive system because facial tissues are not manufactured in that way to use as a menstrual hygiene menstrual product, and they use it because to save money. But 100 taka or 200 taka is nothing to them, but they do it because of their like ignorance or unawareness about these issues. So apart from, like going for more challenges, I will find the similarities more that all of the girls and women from all of the backgrounds share. And yes, I hope if you have more questions you can ask in this forum as well, so that I can share it more early.
So one of the challenges, one of the differences I have seen that while working in India is people from low socio-economic background have privacy as a challenge because they live in slums. Multiple people live together, so privacy is an issue. Access to water is an issue, and sunlight is an issue because they're all very close together, and there are not places to dry the cloth or the washable menstrual pad they use. And like Sharmin said, that it's very difficult for them to buy disposable pads, and it's very challenging for them to access it. So these are the issues we have seen in India. And like you said, the silence is common on both the places. Um, yeah, that is very challenging. And I would say the challenge we have seen while talking to urban upper class menstruators in India is the hesitancy to use washable products or even cups. That is same. Cup is not readily accepted in both the strata of society because of the myth of virginity that a lot of importance is placed on the hymen, which might naturally not be present. So there's a lot of slow adaptation because of that. And also, I agree that there is a learning curve to using cups. So that is a similarity on both the strata. Differences is that, which I mentioned, privacy and water,
True,
sunlight.
true. Yes, true.
Right. And in urban elite, I've also seen they have bought into the idea of being progressive. Like, I am a progressive person, I am a modern person only when I use disposable sanitary products. If I use cloth, then I'm regressing because many times when we bring this idea of, have you ever thought about using reusable product? They say, oh, is it not infectious? So people have mindset that menstrual blood in itself is infectious. So that can cause problems. So
Yes.
I often tell them that if just like you wash and dry your underwear outside, and that's not infectious. So menstrual blood is not infectious. We just have to change the cloth that you're using every 3 hours, wash and dry it in sunlight. So this idea of I am progressive only if I use a disposable pad is the challenge we have seen, particularly in the upper class urban elite. Also in some rural parts, because the media, the government, everybody is pushing the disposable so much that the dioxin in the pad is not spoken about, and it's making money for them every month. So it's actually deterrent if they tell that, okay, use washable products. So everybody is benefiting. Nobody's talking about the dioxin. Nobody's talking about the pollution in water, and so yeah. We have another question. Same from Nalima. Two more questions. That have you come across any gynecologist who is not ready to accept the concept of cups? So, have you come across anybody who is not willing to vouch for cups, or is it not?
Menstrual cup, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't. So we have started also working with menstrual hygiene products. So we are piloting. Like we started working with reusable sanitary napkin, but it is not ready to market or ready to bring to the public for use. So while talking about these things with many other people, but because we had a survey with girls and women from different professions and background, and also from gynecologists, they are not ready to accept the reusable sanitary napkin either.
Yeah.
Because Yes, that they have, you have said that they are afraid that it would be infectious, it would be not hygiene, and the hassle that you need to wash it again, and you need to like dry it in the sun. And in Dhaka, like in some of the homes, it's very difficult to get the sunlight, and in the winter season we have some challenges there. So for the sanitary napkin, people are not ready to accept the reusable one apart from the disposable, because they are not habituated with it. And for the menstrual cup thing, I would say that most of the women can't accept totally, because one point you have said that for the hygiene issues, people are afraid that they will lose their virginity. Another one is like mental, like psychological fear that it might get inserted into your vagina and you will not be able to get it out.
Yeah.
And for the gynecologist, honestly, I didn't have much details conversation with it with the gynecologist particularly, but from the general people, I have talked about this menstrual cup and reusable sanitary napkins. These are the findings I have found.
Right.
And what is the second question, Sneha?
No, these are the two questions. We have another question. Lima is on like in flowing with questions.
Thank you, Nilima.
Pun intended. Um, that you provide training for both men and women to be menstrual educators. So, what are the few things that men have raised? What are the points men have raised, or what are the hesitancies men have raised while getting trained as menstrual educators? So that's a question.
Like men as our participants, or like our trainers, volunteers?
Trainers, volunteers.
Okay, so truth be told, Sneha, I have found a very good inspiration from men, boys and men from around, like either it is from my community, or like where I go to work, or from social media. I get men and women are more aware about these issues than the girls and mothers, because mothers think that we didn't have such things, such information, such books, but we didn't have any problems with menstrual management. So why do our girls need to be educated on these things? So I personally find that changing the like mothers' mindsets are more difficult than changing the fathers' mindsets. Even some of the people in my own community who I have a very good relationship with, either as a like professional or personal, they sometimes invite me at their home. Like Sharmin, come and have a cup of coffee with our family. The inner meaning is that okay, you come and you talk about menstrual hygiene things with my wife, and I have a daughter. You talk about these issues with my daughter. These are the like in between the lines things. So these are the inspiration I'm getting. And another one thing, like a few months ago, we had a project in outside Dhaka, in the rural areas, in a village. There I sent my trainers there, and one point, like mothers were very attacking, and they came to our trainers and they were like threatening our trainers that why you are talking all these issues with our boys and girls. They were taking it as a very insulting, or like something like that. They can't accept that we can't talk about these things. But fortunately our trainers were very smart, I should acknowledge. They were very smart, and they managed the parents very carefully. So another thing I want to share, Nilima. So my experiences of working with Ritu and all these menstrual hygiene things says that it's not about the gender, it's about the time. Whenever we approach with these types of education or topic, like for example, whenever we go to school and we try to we initiate this discussion with students from class 5 or class 6 or even class 7 a bit, both the boys and girls have the same feelings about these issues, because because boys start their puberty a bit later than girls, so they don't know about this period thing. The blood might be something denoting shyness, or denoting they can humiliate girls seeing such blood spots on their uniform. They don't have that social constructed knowledges yet. So I find very enthusiastic both the girls and boys whenever I want, or whenever I go to educate them from class 4, 5, or 6, even sometimes 7, because they think these are very natural education. These are very essential education as their textbooks. They can't differentiate basically. So I really appreciate people who like approach with us to talk about period and menstrual hygiene things with their boys as well and girls as well, from the very early age. And that's why we our minimum age of like starting like educating the girls and boys are class 9, like age 9, because at that time they start to feel the changes. And it happened sometimes that boys from class 6, the village I was sharing about, the example right now with that, we select Ritu Shati, as I have said. So whenever our trainers were announcing that we want to select Ritu Shatis, and two of the boys were very interested than any other girls to be our Ritu Shatis and to educate about menstrual hygiene, puberty things, menstrual hygiene things in their schools and in their community, because those boys don't have not like received the misconception about the period things. So yes, regarding like coming to your point, like taking on board trainers and volunteers, uh, I don't find much challenges. I rather find very inspirational and very enthusiastic the boys teams, male teams. Even on our Facebook, I hardly get like interest from girls and women that I want to work as a volunteer, but I often times get inspiration, get request from male people, the male students, basically, even from outside Dhaka, they want to work with us as a volunteer. So I don't find that it's much challenging for us to onboard male people as our trainers and volunteers. Rather, it's inspirational. Even in my core team, I have some male colleagues as well.
Right. Thank you so much for for the time that you've given us and the input about Ritu. So I request people who are listening and watching to go check out the social media handles of Ritu. Um, are there any parting words you would like to finish off this presentation with?
Oh, thank you again, Sneha. So this is a very great opportunity for me as well. That I'm sharing lots of things with my like I'm sharing my experiences with people from India, people from Bangladesh. So thanks again. So as a concluding remark, my urges to all of you that as pandemic is now going on all over the world, so be a bit more empathetic to the um, girls and women's needs of menstrual hygiene products, either it is your relatives, families, or neighbors, or even helping hand in your family. Just take care of them and ask them if they need menstrual hygiene product. Another one is like for the Muslim people who are watching this, because Ramadan is now going on, and it's a blazing month for us, but again, Ramadan, we girls do also have our period in Ramadan, but this is a very great there is a great taboo regarding that. Even I'm not fasting, because for you, Sneha, if we get period in Ramadan, we don't like we don't need to fast, because Allah has forgiven us for that. But because of the taboo things, because of the shyness things, we the girls and our mothers, sisters, don't eat anything in the whole day, and it has lots of effect, like side effect of psychologically, physically, because I'm not fasting, and at menstrual cycle we need extra irons, extra vitamins, and all these things. But if we don't eat, we lose our strength. So my request to all of the Muslim viewers here, please take care of these issues, that women, your mothers or sisters or female might have uh, periods in this Ramadan time. So please take care of them and rent your hand of household chores, because it's we need your support at that time, and as well as the empathy. So please take care of your female in this Ramadan as well.
Thank you, Sharmin. You've brought up very important points here. From my side, I would invite viewers from Bangladesh to check out our social media handles, Uri Kalankini, and I would also invite for applications for our fellowship. So if you want to adopt methodologies that Uri Kalankini stands for, that is body-based methodology, earth-serving methodology, art-based methodology, so you can please enroll into our fellowship. Only 7-day contact period is a requirement which you have to make an effort for, but the whole fellowship is free of cost. And we would really like it if we could support projects in Bangladesh to be self-sustaining. That we have many more resources, for example, many more organizations who are serving not only under one organization but having their own. So please feel free to get in touch with us. And with this, I will end it. Thank you so much for everybody who have joined us live and who are watching this later as a recording. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.